morning, folks. Good morning, good evening. And thank you, Mark, for the intro there. And thank you very much, Rami and team, for inviting me to speak as well. Cool. Well, this talk is getting started with accessibility and how Copilot can help. So yes, I am saying the dreaded C word. You will hear me saying Copilot a fair bit, but hey, I guess at the moment we're probably all numbed and drown out that word, or certainly for me it's kind of like an annoying little buzz in the back of my ear when somebody says Copilot or AI. So I apologize, but no apologies as well. So quick intro to me. My name's Mike Hartley. As Mark says, I am a solution architect at Capgemini in the UK, where I work on our platform and Dynamics 365 stuff. I have the personal brand, I hate that phrase, of Heart of the Midlands, and that's kind of been my banner for all my community work for quite a few years now. And there's a new edition now, 365 Ally, which will be launching probably, I'm not going to commit to before the end of the year. I will probably say in the new year. And yeah, that's going to be quite an exciting venture, quite an exciting project, pulling people, resources, all the good stuff that's out there about accessibility into kind of one hub so that people can easily find stuff, and then the inevitable podcast and all that kind of jazz to go along with it as well. Big passions of mine are mental health and accessibility. I have fairly complex mental health issues. I have done now for 18 years. So mental health, really a big passion of mine. I also have quite a lot of physical health issues. So accessibility also applies. All the more as I grow older and get through the years as well. So I'm a Microsoft MVP. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer as well at the moment, and all those wonderful things. And yeah, my office, which you can kind of see a bit of, my missus always says to me, where are you actually going to fit any more Lego? Which is kind of worrying, because the Lego Starship Enterprise comes out tomorrow, and that's not a small set, but it will be mine. So I need to turn my office into a TARDIS. And yeah, scan the QR code, click the link, connect with me. All my links and everything else are on my Heart 365 link tree. Later on, there'll also be a link tree for 365 Ally as well, just kind of collating what I see as a few essential resources around accessibility. So yes, right. Anyway, cracking on. Here is roughly what's coming up, and I make no promises that I'm going to stick to all this. I do not rehearse my talks. I never rehearse them, so you never know what randomness is going to come. But we'll start off taking a very quick 101 crash course in accessibility. I've been talking about it now for more years than I care to remember at this point. But I know it's a topic that not everybody knows what accessibility is or understands it, so I'll just do a very quick whistle stop intro for people. we'll then get into the meat of it. Copilots, there'll be some demos, bits and pieces. I have recorded my demos because I don't trust the demo gods. They tend to be quite fickle, and yeah, I don't want to chance my luck, so I have recorded them. If we've got time, maybe I'll do a bit of live stuff at the end, but we'll see how we go. What does an AI overlord future look like? And then some Q&A if anybody's got any questions or any thoughts or any personal experiences they want to share, talk about, all that joy. And I will be keeping an eye on the chat. So if you've got any questions, please just drop it in the chat. And then yeah, I'll pick the message up and try and answer the questions. So, accessibility. Dictionary definition of it, or yeah, the most common definition for accessibility is the ability to access and benefit from a system or entity. By system or entity, it's not meaning technical, it's meaning any kind of object. So it might be an entity as in a building. So for example, having a ramp instead of stairs or as well as stairs, having an elevator, lift that people can use instead of stairs or escalators, things like that. That also fits under this definition. So it's a very wide-ranging definition. The crux of it basically means that accessibility is about making everything accessible to everyone, that there should be no barriers for people to be able to enter a building, go to an event, eat at a restaurant, go to the cinema, whatever. There should be no barriers to it. Likewise, in the digital world, people should be able to use the technology that is available in the way that they can use that technology, and there should be no impediments or blockages to people being able to take advantage of all the stuff that's around them, just because of disabilities or other differences and different needs. So it's a big statement. It really is a big statement, but it's a really important one. Why is it important? Okay, some stats, because stats are always good when you can back them up. Over 1.3 billion people worldwide have a registered disability. The word registered is important because that only talks about the people who have gone to their doctors, gone to the hospitals, gone to their GPs, and have got a formal declaration of disability. Me, for example, mental health is counted as a disability. It fits under the banner, but it's not often included under registered disabilities. My physical issues, I'm not registered disabled, so I kind of am not registered. Then you've got certain countries in the world who do not report the figures, who do not let those numbers out. I'm sure we can probably, if we think about it for 2 minutes, we can probably think, yeah, actually, I know who those who those countries might be, who might be a bit more secretive about population details. So if you think there's 8 billion people in the world and 1.3 billion of those have a registered disability, that's a huge percentage. That is a massive percentage of people. If I look at the UK, 1 in 5 working age adults, so between the age of 18 to, I think working age in this definition is 65. So 18 to 65, 1 in 5 working age adults has a registered disability. And you might think, well, hold on. I look around my office and I wouldn't say that 20% of my office have a disability, because I just don't see that. And that's because 70% of disabilities are hidden. They're either non-visible. So again, you look at me, yeah, okay, I'm overweight by quite a fair bit. But to look at me, you wouldn't go, well, he's got a decaying spine. You wouldn't take a look at me and go, oh, okay, yeah, right. So they're non-visible or they're actively hidden. Sadly, there's still a lot of stigma around disabilities. There's still a lot of people who feel really that they can't be their true selves in the workplace or in society because they'll be judged, they'll be looked as less than. And so they actively hide them. They find ways of masking, of covering it up, of working around the system so that people don't look at them and go, oh, they're disabled. They might look at them and go, well, they're a little bit odd because they do things a little bit weird. But people would rather that than have the stigma of disability, which nobody should have that stigma. There should be no stigma around disability. There should be no stigma around mental health. It's getting better in a lot of places, but it's also getting worse in other places as well. Accessibility is also important because it's legally required in a lot of situations. So if I look at New Zealand government websites, they have been required to comply with the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG, you'll hear that acronym a fair bit, version 2.1, level AA, since 2019. New Zealand were actually the first government to mandate compliance with WCAG before 2019. That's just the date for 2.1. If I take a step over to Europe, European Accessibility Act came into law really this year. There's a bit of a gradual rollout, but that is going to mandate that all businesses over a certain size or businesses doing business within the EU who are over a certain size have got to make sure that all their apps, all their systems, all their websites, everything else are accessible. We go over to America and you've got the American with Disabilities Act and Section 508, and there are other examples. This year we've seen ISO and IEC 40500:2025 be ratified, which is a carbon copy of WCAG 2.2. It's literally just been lifted and shifted and put into an ISO document, but that has now become an ISO standard. So you can comply with it, get audited on it, and say that you are ISO 4500 compliant. They're using the WCAG 2.2, which is the latest published version of the standard, and that 2.2 came into being, or 4500:2025 came into being October this year. There was a previous version that used 2.1 that was ratified in September, and it rapidly got updated to 2.2. So accessibility is really important. It's important from a humanity level, in that we're making sure that we're breaking down barriers for everybody and we're including everybody. And it's becoming a compliance thing. It's becoming a legal requirement more and more and more. And we're just going to see that rolled out even further as we go along. So it's best to get on board with it as early as you can. So WCAG. You can click the QR code or the link to go to the link tree for 365 Ally, where there's all the links to different bits about WCAG along with a bunch of other tools. But yeah, WCAG, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, as I say. It was developed by the World Wide Web Consortium, W3C. And the current published version is 2.2. Version 3 of the standard is in draft. And it is the foundation for pretty much every digital accessibility standard that exists out there, and pretty much every digital accessibility tool out there checks content to the WCAG specification. That includes accessibility checker in Microsoft 365. So when you look at the PowerPoint and it says accessibility investigate at the bottom in the toolbar, that's being measured against WCAG standards and a couple of additions that Microsoft have put in. There are lots of other areas that WCAG's used. I mean, it was developed for websites and web applications first and foremost. But when it was developed for those, people looked at them and they went, you know what, these standards make a lot of sense. They are really logical. They are written in easy to understand and easy to follow language. And with the world moving, or at the time it was developed with the world moving to a lot more mobile apps and web-based content, which we're there now with a lot of stuff, people looked and they went, well, yeah, we need to make sure our products fit with these standards as well. And that's kind of how it became a bit of a standard. That, and it saved people having to do any major work on their own, because they just went, we'll use that standard, thank you very much. So yeah, it's become the de facto standard that gets used. There are additional ones. There's the ARIA subset of WCAG, which is accessible rich internet applications, and that focuses a lot more down on web applications and web apps, a lot more in depth in the way that they operate, but it is a subset of WCAG. It's very closely related to it. So this is the big one, and it genuinely is easy to read. I don't do reading technical documentation. My brain switches off and I go looking for squirrels. But this one actually is easy to follow and understand. So it's very accessible in its own way. One thing I did find when I was doing a little bit of research for this is that New Zealand are currently developing the New Zealand government. They're developing their own version of the government design system language, called, funnily enough, NZGDS. It's currently in alpha on government websites and agencies. Developing new products now are meant to be using NZGDS. It did make me laugh when I looked at it, because I've done work with UK government bodies, and I took one look at it and I went, oh, this looks very familiar. And it turns out, yes, indeed, it is based on the UK's government design system language. But it's also taking bits from the Americans with Disabilities Act and other areas, as well as adding on New Zealand bits and pieces and specifics. The reason I mention it is because it is an open source standard, and it contains patterns and practices that can be reused elsewhere. Things like all the JavaScript elements, all the HTML elements, the CSS, and all those goodies. You can find them on GitHub. You can find UK GDS on there as well. You can take a lot of these patterns, and I'm not saying go copy government design system language, because it's accessible, but it's a bit boring to look at, I'll be honest. And not everybody wants to look like a government website. But there are some really good patterns and practices in there that can help you begin to build a library for how to build Power Apps components, or web apps and portals, so Power Pages, things like that. It can really give you a good starting point for building an accessible system. So definitely go and check it out. And as I say, it's in alpha for NZGDS. So hop over to the UK government design system, where it's a more mature product, where it's one that's been developed and used for quite a few years now. So you can find a lot more reusable components in there at the moment. But definitely keep your eye on it. It's well worth taking a look at. So onto the crux of the matter today. I see Copilot's agents everywhere, and I had to get the Matrix reference in there as well. I mean, you'd have to be living under a rock, and even then, I think that rock would have to be probably somewhere the far side of Pluto, to not have seen the unstoppable rise of AI, and in the Microsoft world, Copilot over the last few years. It's been rapid, it's been in your face, even when we didn't necessarily want it in our faces, and it's been completely unavoidable. We're now starting to move to a bit of a dual language from the Microsoft world, where we've got Copilot and we've got agents. But we're still talking AI. We're still talking about using AI in ways to generate, to automate, to create, and lots of other 8 words, I'm sure. The very first Copilot was GitHub. We're all aware it's been rapidly developed and rolled out across most, if not every, area of Microsoft. I think I'm really struggling to think of a place where there isn't Copilot nowadays in the Microsoft world. We've got it in Microsoft 365, and that's not just the traditional Office products, it's the whole of Microsoft 365, all the way to our wonderful Biz Apps worlds. You just cannot get away from it there. And I mean, we've even got gaming Copilot on Xbox, which yeah, that's an interesting one. That's quite an interesting one. I have had a play with it, and yeah, it's an interesting one. We are moving towards an agent-based future alongside the Copilot, and it took me a while to understand what's the difference between Copilot and an agent. And basically, Copilot is exactly what it says on the tin. It's Copilot. It's an AI assistant working alongside users. An agent is there as an autonomous AI object. It can perform workflows and automated tasks, and it can adapt without direct human intervention. So we can build an agent and it can adapt to circumstance. And if that sounds all a little bit Terminator-esque to you, then join the club, because when I kind of read that definition, I was like, oh yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it. And it is. But you think about, well, if I've got an agent handling different kinds of data, then it being able to adapt intelligently and correctly, mark the homework, but if it can adapt to subtle changes, then great, that's going to take some workload off. So yeah, it's a little bit interesting, this sort of delineation, Copilot versus agent. And yeah, I think when people kind of think about the AI future, a lot of people probably are thinking more what would now be dubbed an agent rather than the Copilot side of things, because the Copilot is designed to help us, not to think for itself necessarily, whereas an agent is a bit more, yeah, I can do this for myself, I can make some changes and keep you running efficiently and without crashing out all the time. Okay, where it all began, GitHub Copilot. Oh, this one's got a little bit of animation on it. I didn't realize that. It's available in many development environments and other places, etc. Let me just click through this because, oh no, too far. There we go. There was a survey done in October 2023, so 2 years ago now, which seems crazy. 2 years. That when they looked at it, 85% of developers felt more confident in their code quality when authored with GitHub Copilot or Copilot Chat. So asking for GitHub Copilot to help and to take a look and things like that. 15% faster code reviews that were a lot more actionable and completed compared to before. And 88% of developers said they maintained their flow state with GitHub Copilot Chat. And the link is there to the research that went into that. So please feel free to take a look and read the information for yourself. Now, that was 2 years ago, before we had the whole vibe coding thing. And I'll be honest, I'm getting almost as sick of vibe coding as I am of hearing the word Copilot. And I'm a bit of a cynic when it comes to vibe coding, because there's a lot of talk about, well, everybody's vibe coding. I heard talk of people saying that 80 to 85% of code within organizations would be vibe coded. And then I look at some of the issues that have happened in technology products, software products over this year, and I'm like, yeah, and the quality's gone downhill because the bugs that we're seeing have risen. So I'm a bit cynical and skeptical when it comes to this. Of course, that can be down to people not marking the homework of the AI. It's one thing I stress to any of my teams, is go ahead, use AI, make the most of it, use Copilot, please do, but mark the homework. Do not take it on blind trust. If you do not understand what the AI is telling you, don't use it. Because if you don't understand it, then you don't know whether it's doing it properly, or it's doing it efficiently, or in the best way possible. I don't think we're seeing that in certain organizations and certain companies that are out there, and I won't name names, but again, I'm sure we're all intelligent people. We can probably think of some examples ourselves from this year. Do I think it'll improve? Yes, I do. I think it will learn. But what we've got to remember is AI is only trained on the information it's got at the moment, which has been written by humans, and humans are fallible, and we can never agree on anything. So you're not going to necessarily get best practice, because what I say is best practice may be different to what the person next to me would say is best practice. And how does AI know which one of us is correct? I mean, I am, of course, but AI doesn't know that. But this was the birthplace of the Copilots. This was the first time we heard the word Copilot, and developers all went, ooh, and justifiably so for the most part. So I did a bit of, I'm not a pro code developer, so I did something very, very simple that I could understand. I went into Copilot and I said, I want you to create me some CSS, cascading style sheet. So this demo, I gave it a prompt and I said, I want to create CSS for a website with colors, include tags for multiple layers of text, buttons, hyperlinks. And include the contrast ratio in the comments for each tag where there are colors. And you can see this is what GitHub Copilot created for me. It's given me the contrast ratio, and that's what Web Content Accessibility Guidelines use to gauge whether something is accessible or not, is the contrast ratio. So on the whole, it's kind of, yeah, it's created me CSS with a lot of the standard elements for HTML, buttons and links and paragraphs and headings, that they're all in there. And it's given me a set of standard colors to work to. So A, how accessible was that result? And B, how accurate was it in what it said? And I've got a little tool I use that calculates the contrast ratio, and it lets me know whether it passes the AA or even better, the AAA standards under WCAG. So I fed in the colors that it had generated to compare what Copilot said the contrast ratio was versus what the contrast ratio actually is. And we can see, if I move up here, we can see that the main body background and text, well, Copilot didn't give me a contrast for that, but 12.6, it passes. Green across the board, it passes. Of course it's going to. It's a very dark grey against a white background. Great. Then we look at the headings and the background and the text there. Now, Copilot said it was 5.6 to 1 ratio. Well, the actual ratio was 3.2, so considerably lower. And at that point, it only passes for user interface elements and for large text, so heading text, under an AA level rating. Doesn't pass it for standard text, and it certainly doesn't pass AAA. The button background and text, well, it's not done a dark red, it's done quite a pale red as a recommendation. It said it's either 4.0 or 5.6 to 1. It gave two different results in the two areas that used those colors. So it can't even agree with itself. But it's actually 3.8. So 4.0, yeah, it's close enough, but 5.6 is way out. And it doesn't pass for text. It passes for large text and it passes for user interface. And then links, background and text, it said 4.5 to 1. Okay, 4.7, again, relatively close. And that does pass, but not AAA text. So, okay. Now, one of the things we're all learning with this AI world is it's all about prompts. It's all about how you ask questions. It's all about how you phrase things. And all I said was create CSS for a website with colors and include tags for multiple levels of text, buttons, hyperlinks, and lists. Include contrast ratio. I thought that was fairly clear. I thought that was fairly straightforward, but obviously not detailed enough. So let's ask it to create some that complies with Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So similar prompt, except this time I say WCAG compliant, and I say with bright colors. And here we go. We've got our information, we've got our details, and we can scroll through and it's giving us, oh yeah, some really promising looking contrast ratios. So, and it's done a reasonable job writing some CSS. It's CSS I could use, but is it accurate? So let's have a look. Again, it didn't give me background and text contrast ratio, but it's black on white. It's about as, I mean, it is the highest grade you can get, 21. It's going to pass on everything. Headings, background and text. Copilot said it was 21. Well, it couldn't be because it's a dark blue. It's not black. However, it did do 12.6. So again, that passes all across the board. Looking good so far, Copilot. Button, background and text. It said 12.7. Well, you actually did better than that this time, Copilot. You got 13.9. And you pass all across the board to the AAA standard, which is harder to meet and should be the gold standard of where we go. All looking really good for Copilot here. Oh dear. Link, background and text, you say 8.6 to 1, and no, sorry, it's 3.8 to 1. And yeah, it passes for large text and user interface elements. It got 3 out of the 4 there that I picked up, and it's not bad, but it kind of goes to show the mark your homework thing. I could look at the comments that it gave me and go, well, it's saying my headings are 21 to 1 and they're not. It's saying my contrast on links is 8.6. Well, it's not. It's actually a fail for text, which most hyperlinks will just be standard size text. So they would fail on an accessibility checker. So it highlights the whole thing of let's mark our homework. Let's have a quick look at Microsoft 365 Copilot. In a lot of areas, so Teams doing call summaries and what have you, Outlook getting summaries of emails. Oh my word, I make use of those so much. They are brilliant. They are really good. Excel summarizing, presenting data. Yeah, it's not too bad. Word drafting documentation. It can help get you an outline and give you some points to build on. PowerPoint, helping create slide decks. Yeah, it can help, kind of. Yeah, let's take a quick look, shall we? You going to start playing? There we go. So go into Copilot and I've blocked the prompt here, but I say create a colorful 12 deck or 10 deck slide to talk about accessibility and make it accessible. So let me just skip through the video as I've blocked the prompting with my wonderful face. I'm sure you'd much rather see the prompting. It goes away and it does its thing. It thinks things through. It creates, it works its way through, and then eventually it comes out with a presentation. Yeah, okay. So that first slide, yeah, that's not going to pass accessibility because it's way too noisy. Yes, it's white on black, but there's a lot of noise in the background. It will fail. But then you look at the rest of the slides and okay, it's kind of done some of what I've asked for. The slide decks themselves, it's black text on a white background. The text is clear, it's concise, and it's done the subject matter for me. It's not done it bright and colourful like I asked for. Oops. It hasn't. And why did you suddenly skip on there? It's not done it bright and colourful like I asked for, but it's got a rough gist. It's got stuff that I can get working with, you know. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. It's a bit, yeah, bit okay. So let's take a quick look at Power Platform and BizApps World. So, an accessible platform. Are we getting there? Well, you can create simple apps and data models in Power Apps. I don't know how many people were paying attention to Microsoft Ignite last week, but launched last week. We have vibe.powerapps.com. I told you I'm going to get sick of hearing vibe coding, but you can now vibe code Power Apps. You can use Microsoft Copilot for Sales or Sales Copilot. There are two. To access Dynamics 365 data and more. You can build simple flows in Power Automate. I will say that Power Automate and expressions in with Copilot, I use that a lot. It's definitely really powerful and well worth investigating. Summarize data. Oh, I've got to stop clicking on screen. Summarize data in Power BI, and yeah, build copilots and agents in Copilot Studio. I decided to take the latest toy for a spin this afternoon. I thought I'm going to try vibe coding because everybody's doing it. Why shouldn't I try? And I said, build me an app for recording skills and competency for a team of people. The app should grade competency on a 0 to 5 scale, where 0 is no knowledge and 5 is Jedi Master, with appropriate names for the other grades. And the app should also provide a screen that shows a report of competencies and highlight any areas where there's little or no knowledge. So here's where I get brave and I drop out of PowerPoint. So let me end slideshow briefly, and welcome to vibe.powerapps.com. So here's my prompt, where I say, build me an app for recording skills and competency. And when you give it the prompt, I mean, if you've used Power Apps Plan Designer before, then this interface will be quite similar for you. Oh, yeah, hide that. I don't want to see that. It tells you the user roles that it envisages. It's come up with a team member, a manager, and an administrator. It comes up with a data model based in Dataverse. And it comes up with what the technology should look like. And it's saying, well, I'm going to do an app. I'm going to create a workflow to send managers notifications when there are no skills. And of course, this wouldn't be AI without recommending that it's going to set up an AI. In this case, it's setting up an agent to assist administrators creating skills categories to maintain data integrity. So it then goes words away, it thinks about this, and it then presents me with a data model. Nice, pretty little entity relationship diagram there, which fine. One thing to note is it does not build this in solutions. So it just takes the default publisher and publisher name, which is annoying. And then it goes and it builds the app. And you might be thinking, well, what does the app look like? I'm expecting a really poor Canvas app. Well, not quite. This is the app it built. This doesn't look like a Canvas app, and it's not. Because although it's on vibe.powerapps.com, it's not really a Power app. It's a React app. But let's take a quick look. I can add view my skills. I've got a team dashboard. What else can I do? Okay, right. What you can't actually see, because it did not do accessible colors, is there's a nav bar at the top here. And yeah, home, my skills and team dashboard. Yeah, that's a bit of an epic fail there. But hey, I have a competency ratings overview, and I can add view my skills, and I can, well, it's not quite done me, it's done, I can add a competency for somebody. I can say rating of 5. Oh, I've got a competency name. I can say, yeah, they're a Jedi Master. It has done some levels, but it's confused in that it's separated rating and rating label out. And I can say it was last updated today, and I can save it, and it'll whir away, and it adds it, and there you go. The graph's updated, and the competencies are there. I can go to a team dashboard. Oh, the team dashboard doesn't work. But hey, it seems to be looking at a different set of skill categories. But it's kind of created something. But when I actually look in here, I can go into the app, and yeah, this is not Power Apps. I mean, it's, in all honesty, it's more akin to Power Pages, rather than Power Apps. But you can come in here, you can take a look. I don't actually know whether you can edit it or not. No, you can't edit it in the read-only editor. So the only way of editing it is to download it and then try and re-upload it. But it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit funny. But there's possibly some hope there. But again, it's kind of done some of it, but not necessarily everything. So if we look at the other areas of Power Platform, what's the verdict? Well, apps it generates, they're simple and not accessible. Vibe apps are code-based, they're not fully accessible. Power Automate isn't a UI, but the maker's getting more accessible. And Power BI, yeah, I will be honest, I don't know because I'm not a Power BI. And Copilot Studio, depends what you want to build. And very quickly, because I've just realised, seeing Keith pop up, that I've waffled on so long. What does an AI future look like? Well, if there was any justice, we'd be talking to Cortana. Yes, I do like the Halo games, and I would have loved to be able to say to my computer, "Hey Cortana." Sadly, Microsoft went early with the "Hey Cortana" and ended up getting a bad name for it, so they killed it off. But I'm, in the same way as I hope to see Clippy return powered by Copilot, I want to see Cortana on my Windows PCs and mobile devices. Honestly, though, I try to be optimistic about the future of AI and accessibility, and I think it has the potential to do an awful lot of good. And it has the potential to be a really powerful thing. My worry is that with all the vibe coding going on, is that accessibility gets left behind with it all. People just do all the vibe coding, they don't mark it, they don't test it, and we end up with products that are half-baked with accessibility and inconsistent, which you don't have to aim to meet all accessibility standards, but you should aim to be consistent on the ones that you do meet. And at the moment, the vibe coding world generates content where some of it will be accessible on colors and others won't, for example. We've just seen examples of that. So I want to be really hopeful because I think there's a lot of potential. I'll be honest, I have some concerns, but it's up to us to make sure that we tell people like Microsoft, make it accessible, and that we build accessible stuff. So with that all being done, I do apologize. I've run out of time for Q&A. So I do apologize. This is my bad for not rehearsing. I never rehearse though. So if you've got any questions, please, I'll make sure to share a PDF version of my slide deck. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Go to the 365 Ally and the Heart 365 link trees, find the links and reach out. And before I finish and hand over to Keith, just a massive thank you to all the sponsors: Stratos, H2R, Dynamics User Group, Teal Software and Microsoft, because without them, you will not get these events happening. So thank you, folks. I hope this has been informative and educational and enjoyable. And I hope you all have a great rest of the event. Enjoy your day, enjoy the event. And yeah, I'm going to introduce Keith and go to bed. So have a good day, folks. And thanks for having me.